Social media is a powerful tool for business. If you use it right, you can be flooded with work. If you use it wrong, you could lose all of your customers. And the Skyline Shed has been using it in a way that's hard to describe. The Skyline Shed is a Mount Druitt-based workshop that specializes in assembling engines and gearboxes for the Nissan Skyline, as well as selling parts on their website. And until recently, their Facebook page was used in pretty much the way you'd expect from a small business. They would post about products and services they provide, as well as the occasional meme. But in January of this year, their social media strategy changed drastically. After getting into an argument with someone on Facebook, the owner of the Skyline Shed took screenshots of this argument and posted them to the Skyline Shed's Facebook page. And this post did pretty well for them. Seeing the stark difference in engagement between their usual content and this, the owner decided to lean into this. While regular posts about products and services continued, he also began to regularly post this more inflammatory content. And with this change in content, the notoriety of the Skyline Shed Facebook page began to grow, and along with it, a small, dedicated fan base as well. You see, the owner of the Skyline Shed, he's not afraid to get into arguments and start drama online. In fact, he was already kind of notorious for it. Over the years, he's used his personal Facebook profile to get into arguments with people in various Skyline Facebook groups, which have gained quite a fair bit of attention. He's even had exchanges with owners of other businesses, like in late 2022 when he and the owner of Cartel Oz got into an argument which led to quite a bit of attention. Using his personal Facebook profile showed that he wasn't afraid of confrontation and he had no fear of reprisal from keyboard warriors online. The posts that he began making on the business page in January were just an extension of something he was already doing. But then in late February, the Skyline Shed made a post calling out Hypergear turbos. Now this is a long post, so I recommend you go to the page and try to read it yourself, but I'll try to summarize it quickly. He basically claims that Hypergear are cheap Chinese turbos and that they had removed details from their website in order to mislead customers. He claims that the business and the owner are dishonest and that you get better value for money buying other brands' turbos instead. He even included communications between himself and the owner as part of his evidence of these claims. This is generally considered to be a bit of a dick move on the internet because private communication is supposed to be private, and it dissuades people from wanting to talk with you privately in the future for fear that you might screenshot your conversations with them and post them all over the internet as some sort of evidence against them in the future. But this post did very well for them, generating a lot of attention and discussion, not just on the Skyline Shed Facebook page, but across the wider car community on Facebook in general. Hypergear responded by beginning the process of compiling and dumping all of the data from their R&D cars and turbos so that customers could look through this data themselves and make their own assessment. Then, in early March, there was another call-out post. This time pointing out the similarities between coil cover and baffles made by PRP and Boost Stock. And the community response to this was mostly, There's only so much you can do when you're trying to make coil covers for the exact same engine. But this was nothing compared to what would come only a week later. The Skyline Shed made a post calling out Boost Stock once again, but this time claiming that they sold a faulty engine to an American customer for over 30,000 Australian dollars. In the post, he provides over a dozen screenshots of the disassembled engine as well as messages with the customer. Needless to say, with the condition that this engine was in, this post generated a lot of attention, and there were several people who chimed in with their own negative experiences. Now, it's worth noting at this point that calling out other businesses publicly in the Australian automotive space is extremely rare. At this point, some businesses have built such a strong social media presence and loyal fan base that trying to call them out for bad behavior or business practices publicly is more likely to see you attacked by their fan base and you brought down rather than the people doing the wrong thing. Some people have built so many industry connections that they can essentially give the Roman Emperor thumbs down at your business, and a large number of Australian workshops, suppliers and manufacturers will simply refuse to work with you, effectively choking out most of your ability to do business. So it's just not worth the risk trying to expose bad behavior publicly. But the Skyline Shed is bucking this trend by making a significant portion of their online presence all about calling out other businesses. And the response to this is mixed. Obviously, there's a large number of customers who are grateful that they have somebody who appears to be on their side, calling out bad behavior and bad businesses and protecting customers. And then of course, you've got other business owners who are unhappy with this behavior, calling it unprofessional and saying saying it should be dealt with privately, because a lot of these issues could just be made up, or they could be overblowing very minor things in order to make competitors look bad so that customers will come to them instead. Both of these positions are kind of correct. Having someone in the industry who's willing to hold themselves and others accountable in order to try and get the best possible result for the customer is the best thing that could happen. But it is also true that he could use this power in the wrong way and tear down competitors in order to boost himself up. Either way, what they're doing is clearly working, because the Skyline Shed have claimed that they've increased their sales multiple times over. Clearly, they are winning customers over with this new approach. And while there are detractors and people who say this new social media strategy is unprofessional or it's mean, I'd like to point out that this isn't even a new social media strategy. In fact, it's been tried and tested by several other companies in the past and is now becoming more of the standard for what a lot of big businesses are doing. The Twitter account for Wendy's actually pioneered this strategy over a decade ago. Them sarcastically mocking people or making jokes and mean tweets became something that was shared across the internet for years before other businesses started to pick this strategy up. Companies like Dbrand have become famous for pushing this strategy to its extremes, openly mocking and harassing customers and haters alike. The Skyline Shed is just doing what these companies have already done, albeit with a very distinctly West Sydney twist. And a big upside of having a social media presence like this is they are perfectly positioned to address any drama that comes their way. Like when they were able to quickly clear their name after a customer began publicly talking poorly about them over a broken gearbox. In this post, they claim that this customer had bought a gearbox from them, had it shipped to the USA, and then a year after they had bought the gearbox, they had tried to use it and found that it was broken. Now, the customer claimed that there were chipped teeth on the countershaft, which must be a result of them dropping the countershaft on the floor during assembly. And in the screenshots of this post, the Skyline Shed showed that whilst this gearbox was out of warranty, they were willing to take responsibility if it was in fact their fault during assembly for breaking it. And so they gave the customer several steps to follow in order to remediate this entire situation. Unfortunately, the customer chose not to follow any of these steps towards remediation, and instead chose to start talking poorly about the business publicly and encouraging other people to go and review bomb them. But a couple of hours later, the Skyline Shed posted a video response. In this video, the owner intentionally tried to break a countershaft that they had on hand, and in the process demonstrated that there was no way the countershaft could have been broken by simply dropping on the floor during assembly. In fact, he tried intentionally over and over again to break this countershaft's teeth with quite a lot of force and showed instead the concrete would be breaking first. Having a social media presence positioned like this is extremely powerful for a business, because instead of just believing everything that they're told, people will look at your page and then expect that you're going to come back with some kind of explanation or reasoning as to what's going on, and they'll be more willing to wait and see what it is you have to say. Exactly like in this situation where they were able to pretty much unilaterally clear their name of any wrongdoing, and in the process made this customer look like a bit of a twit. Since then, the regular call-out roasts and posts have continued. They have continued to call out other engine builders and made memes and posts mocking them and the people who defend them in the comments. Overall, the Skyline Shed is a hard one to categorize. Whether or not you like them probably just comes down to your individual taste. The line that they're walking on is quite a difficult one to balance between pushing too far and isolating themselves from a larger, wider customer base, and not pushing far enough and keeping the current customer base and the current fans of the page satisfied with the things that they're doing. As it stands right now, they seem to be walking that line really well and continuing to grow their page, their business, and their notoriety. So tell me what you think. Do you like what they're doing, or do you think it's going too far? Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you guys in the next video.